Imagine being in the middle of a church service when the man you've trusted for years collapses in front of the congregation, and the reason is a shocking revelation made by his own spouse. At 52, gospel singer and pastor Deitrick Haddon faced one of the most public and devastating moments of his life after allegations from his wife surfaced, leaving both fans and church members stunned. Tonight, we break down everything that happened, the exposure, the collapse, and the fallout that's shaken the gospel world. Deitrick Haddon has long been celebrated as a powerful voice in gospel music and a respected leader in ministry. His influence spans decades, with hit songs, live performances, and a ministry that inspired thousands. But even the most admired public figures are not immune to personal struggles. And sometimes those struggles explode into public view in ways that no one expects. This video dives into the shocking events that unfolded when Deitrick Haddon, at 52, collapsed during a church service after serious allegations were publicly made by his wife. We'll break down exactly what was revealed, how the congregation reacted, and the ripple effects this incident has caused in both his ministry and the gospel community at large. You'll hear about the context behind the allegations, including the tensions in his personal life, the timeline of events, and the claims that made headlines. We'll also explore the broader implications for pastors and public figures who live much of their lives under constant scrutiny. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear picture of what led to this unprecedented moment, the lessons it reveals about accountability and transparency, and why it has sparked intense discussion across social media and the gospel community. And just when you think this story is only about a collapse in the pulpit, the next section reveals the explosive statements that triggered this public confrontation. Statements that nobody expected to hear in a church setting. It was a Sunday service like any other at Deitrick Haddon's church, but the atmosphere quickly changed in a way that no one could have predicted. Congregants were gathered for worship, many singing along to familiar gospel songs, when the focus suddenly shifted from the music to the pulpit. Haddon, known for his passionate delivery and magnetic stage presence, suddenly faltered. Eyewitness accounts and video footage reveal that he appeared visibly distressed before collapsing. Gasps spread through the congregation, and church leaders rushed to his side. Some members initially thought it was a health emergency, while others suspected it might be emotional overload. And in fact, it was both. The collapse didn't occur in isolation. It came on the heels of a bombshell revelation from his wife that left Haddon visibly shaken. Reports indicate that the allegations involved serious claims about his personal conduct, which were made publicly for the first time during the service. The congregation, unprepared for such a revelation, was left stunned. Many members later described the scene as surreal, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and confusion. Social media clips of the incident quickly went viral, capturing the moment millions would replay and discuss for days. What made this moment even more compelling was the fact that Haddon had built his public persona on strength, spiritual authority, and resilience. For years, fans and church members looked to him as a figure of guidance and inspiration. Seeing him collapse in a moment of extreme vulnerability challenged that image and forced both supporters and critics to confront the human side of spiritual leadership. Even more intense was the emotional reaction from his wife, whose statements added layers of complexity to the situation. She reportedly revealed personal grievances and alleged behaviors that the public had never been aware of, creating a scenario that blurred the lines between private marital conflict and public ministry crisis. The cliffhanger here is clear. This wasn't just a physical collapse. It was the first sign of a deeper unraveling, one that would expose long-hidden tensions and ignite conversations about accountability, transparency, and the pressures of living a life in the spotlight. The shocking collapse in the church was only the beginning. What truly captivated public attention were the allegations made by Deitrick Haddon's wife, which reportedly detailed personal and private conflicts that had been simmering behind the scenes for years. These revelations were not minor complaints. They touched on issues of trust, accountability, and personal conduct, exposing vulnerabilities in a leader who was long held up as a spiritual role model. According to multiple reports, the claims included assertions that Haddon had engaged in behavior inconsistent with the expectations placed on a pastor and public figure. While specifics vary across different sources, the core message suggested deep marital discord and questioned decisions he had made both personally and publicly. For many followers, this was a jarring contrast to the carefully curated image of a flawless, faithful leader. It's important to note that this wasn't gossip or unverified rumors circulating online. The statements came directly from his spouse, delivered publicly, which intensified the impact. The congregation that witnessed these revelations live could not simply dismiss them as hearsay. The words themselves, combined with Haddon's visible reaction, painted a picture of a man confronting personal failures under the intense scrutiny of his community and the public eye. The timeline leading up to this explosive moment shows months of tension and private disputes, some of which had reportedly been known by close friends and church associates. However, nothing had reached the level of public confrontation until that fateful service. Experts in ministry and counseling point out that private marital conflicts can often be magnified when the individuals involved hold positions of influence, making resolution more complicated and public perception more volatile. Social media amplified the situation within hours. Clips of Haddon's collapse and his wife's statements were shared thousands of times, sparking heated debates. Supporters expressed concern for his health and emotional state, while critics questioned the ethics of revealing such personal matters in a church setting. Conversations quickly expanded beyond the immediate congregation, reaching fans, critics, and fellow pastors worldwide. What makes this situation particularly complex is the intersection of personal accountability and public responsibility. Haddon's position as both a gospel singer and pastor meant that every action, every response, and every public statement would be scrutinized. The allegations, combined with the viral footage of his collapse, created a moment where the private and public collided, forcing both him and the community to confront uncomfortable truths about vulnerability, trust, and leadership. The suspense here is undeniable. How would Haddon respond to such a public exposure? Could he maintain his ministry and credibility, or would this incident mark a turning point in his career and personal life? After collapsing in the middle of the service, Deitrick Haddon's immediate priority shifted from defending his reputation to regaining composure and addressing the overwhelming shock of the moment. Witnesses report that he was assisted by church leaders and family members as he was escorted off stage, visibly distraught and emotionally shaken. Some accounts describe him as pale, unsteady, and almost in disbelief. A powerful illustration of how intense personal and public pressure can converge in a single moment. Shortly after the incident, Haddon issued statements to the media and on social media, acknowledging the events without fully disclosing the private details. He expressed gratitude for the support of his congregation and emphasized that he was taking time to process both the allegations and his own emotions. In interviews, he spoke candidly about the difficulty of living a life that is both public and spiritual, highlighting the immense pressures pastors face when personal matters suddenly become public spectacles. Health professionals and spiritual counselors observing the incident noted that collapses in such settings often stem from a combination of physical exhaustion, emotional stress, and psychological strain. For Haddon, The sudden exposure of deeply personal allegations created an environment of extreme vulnerability, amplified by the presence of cameras, congregants, and online viewers. This was more than a physical response. It was a manifestation of cumulative emotional and psychological weight finally breaking through. The public reaction to his response was as polarized as the incident itself. Some praised Haddon for his humility and willingness to face the situation openly, emphasizing that even spiritual leaders are human and capable of mistakes. Others criticized the handling of the situation, questioning whether allowing the confrontation to occur in a live service was appropriate for both the congregation and his personal well-being. Social media platforms were flooded with discussions, commentary, and analysis, many of which focused on his body language, tone, and immediate reaction during the collapse. Additionally, Haddon's response highlighted the challenge of reconciling personal and public accountability. As a pastor and gospel artist, his life is inherently public, and followers hold him to high moral standards. Facing allegations from his spouse in such a visible context required navigating not only emotional and relational complexities, but also the expectations of a large and invested audience. For many observers, this raised critical questions. Can spiritual leaders maintain authenticity under pressure while meeting the expectations of public life? How much privacy can they truly have before personal matters become public crises? The cliffhanger here revolves around the long-term implications of this moment. Haddon's collapse was not merely a one-time incident. It set the stage for a series of decisions that could redefine his career, ministry, and personal life. How he addressed the fallout, rebuilt trust, and navigated public scrutiny would determine whether this episode would be remembered as a personal tragedy, a spiritual lesson, or a cautionary tale for public figures everywhere. The fallout from Deitrick Haddon's collapse and the allegations made by his wife extended far beyond the walls of his church. Once video clips and news reports began circulating, social media became a battleground of opinions, emotions, and debates. Fans, fellow gospel artists, critics, and casual observers all weighed in, reflecting the polarizing nature of the incident and the influence of modern digital platforms on ministry and public perception. Many longtime fans expressed concern for Haddon's health and emotional well-being. Messages of support flooded social media channels with people emphasizing empathy over judgment. Comments like, "He's human, we all make mistakes," and praying for him and his family dominated posts reflecting the compassion of a community that had been inspired by his music and ministry for decades. Several followers highlighted that witnessing their spiritual leader in such a vulnerable state reminded them of their own struggles and the human aspect of faith leaders. At the same time, critics were quick to voice their opinions. Some questioned Haddon's integrity and leadership, suggesting that the collapse was a symptom of long-term personal and professional mismanagement. Others debated whether his wife's public exposure of private matters was appropriate, or if it violated boundaries that should be respected in a faith-based environment. These discussions spilled over into forums, comment sections, and news articles, often resulting in intense debates that drew in participants from around the globe. Fellow gospel artists and pastors also chimed in, offering statements of caution, support, or critique. Some acknowledged the pressures faced by leaders who juggle ministry, public image, and personal life, emphasizing the need for grace and understanding. Others used the incident as an opportunity to spark conversations about accountability, warning that when personal misconduct intersects with public ministry, the consequences can ripple across entire congregations and audiences. The incident also fueled conversations about the role of social media in modern ministry. A collapse like Haddon's, once confined to the local congregation, now reaches millions within hours. Viral videos, trending hashtags, and global commentary create both immediate pressure and long-lasting reputational consequences. Experts point out that this is a double-edged sword. While digital platforms allow leaders to reach more people, and inspire global audiences, they also amplify mistakes and personal struggles in ways that were previously impossible. The emotional impact on congregants was equally significant. Those who were present described feelings of shock, disbelief, and confusion. Witnessing a spiritual leader, someone they trusted and admired, falter so publicly challenged their perception of faith, authority, and human fallibility. Many congregants reported wrestling with questions about loyalty, trust, and forgiveness, highlighting the complex interplay between personal admiration for a leader and the reality of human imperfection. And here's the cliffhanger that keeps the story alive. The reactions from fans and the community didn't just end with outrage or support. They created an ongoing narrative, one that would influence Haddon's next steps, affect his family dynamics, and spark long-term discussions about transparency, accountability, and the pressures of public ministry. The public collapse and the allegations from his wife were not just a momentary shock. They have the potential to reshape Deitrick Haddon's life, ministry, and career in profound ways. For someone whose reputation has been built on decades of gospel music, preaching, and public influence, a single viral incident can have ripple effects that last for months or even years. From a career perspective, Haddon faces immediate scrutiny regarding his professional image. Concert promoters, media outlets, and ministry partners are evaluating how the incident affects his marketability and public credibility. While many fans continue to support him, some sponsors and collaborators may hesitate, concerned about association with controversy. This is especially relevant in the gospel and entertainment industries, where reputation and personal conduct are closely tied to opportunity. Haddon's team has reportedly been working behind the scenes to manage public relations, but the widespread nature of the incident means the story is unlikely to fade quickly. In terms of ministry, the impact is equally significant. Congregants and church leaders are navigating how to process the situation within the spiritual community. Some may question leadership and governance structures, while others are calling for grace, forgiveness, and restoration. The incident has sparked discussions about accountability in ministry, with questions about whether church leaders need more transparent systems to address personal struggles before they escalate publicly. Haddon's response in the coming months will likely set a precedent for how similar situations are handled in faith-based communities. On a personal level, the incident has placed intense pressure on Haddon's family dynamics. Public exposure of private matters can strain relationships, complicate communication, and exacerbate existing conflicts. Counseling, both personal and marital, has been suggested as an essential step to navigate these challenges. Observers note that the combination of emotional stress, public scrutiny, and personal vulnerability can take a significant toll on mental and physical health, making recovery a complex and multifaceted process. The incident also serves as a cautionary tale for other public figures, particularly those in ministry. It highlights the delicate balance between personal life and public expectation, the importance of transparency, and the risks associated with private matters becoming public spectacle. Experts in leadership and pastoral care emphasize that while mistakes are human, preparation, accountability structures, and open communication can mitigate the consequences of crises when they occur. Social media continues to play a crucial role in shaping the narrative. Discussions, memes, and analyses keep the story alive in the public eye, creating ongoing pressure for Haddon to address questions, clarify misunderstandings, and demonstrate personal growth. This continuous feedback loop can be both a challenge and an opportunity. It can amplify mistakes, but it can also provide a platform for redemption, explanation, and rebuilding trust.